President Trump outlined some of his plans for the future of Venezuela and its oil in a meeting with oil industry executives at the White House yesterday.
We're going to be working with Venezuela. We're going to be making the decision as to which oil companies are going to go in, that we're going to allow to go in. We're going to cut a deal with the companies. The plan is for them to spend, meaning our giant oil companies will be spending at least $100 billion of their money, not the government's money. They don't need government money, but they need government protection.
The executives in the room were cool to the president's proposal, with the CEO of ExxonMobil calling Venezuela, quote, uninvestable under current conditions. And this comes the day after the U.S. Senate delivered a stunning rebuke of the president, advancing a war powers resolution to prevent further strikes in Venezuela without congressional approval. Trump called 5 Republican senators on Thursday to reprimand them for supporting the measure, viewing it as a vote against him personally. In the meantime, the president also used yesterday's White House event to ramp up his imperialist vision again, making threats to take over Greenland, the autonomous Danish territory, and again, hinting at a military operation in Cuba. In a separate interview with the New York Times, get this, when asked if he felt there were any limits to his global powers, Trump told the reporters, quote, yeah, there is one thing, my own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop me. He added, quote, I don't need international law. I'm not looking to hurt people. Joining us now, Vivian Salama, staff writer for The Atlantic, and journalist and author Paola Ramos. She is a contributor for MS Now and Noticias Telemundo. Thank you both very much for coming back to the weekend. So, Vivian, is the administration's policy towards Venezuela any clearer now than it was a week ago today when the United States snatched Maduro?
Can I just say this has probably been the longest week of my life?
I was like, excuse me.
I don't even believe it. That was at least 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But the administration's policy, we know without any doubt that they are going after the oil now.
We know it's all about oil.
In case President Trump mentioning it 30 times during the Mar-a-Lago press conference a week ago today wasn't indicative enough, he convened the oil executives at the White House yesterday, trying to move further along with that plan. But there are so many unknowns that, I think a lot of the oil executives essentially walked out of there saying, slow your roll, like this is not even remotely possible right now, given current conditions in Venezuela. And what am I talking about? First of all, Maduro's regime is still running the country.
Thank you.
So there are no guarantees. So yes, they are talking to the vice president turned interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, trying to work with her. But a number of the people who were indicted with him, the people who are believed to have destabilized that country to begin with, are still there. Yeah. And so absent any major radical changes, political instability is still a factor. You have questions about rule of law going forward. And these oil executives, when they go into a country like Venezuela, they want stability. If they're going to be putting billions and billions of dollars into a country,
they're employees on the ground.
And they're employees on the ground. They want to be sure that those people are safe and that those projects are not going to get derailed or sabotaged. And nothing is guaranteed at this point. The White House can't provide guarantees, only to say we're working on it and everything is going to be great. Well, those oil executives kind of came out there shrugging their shoulders.
Right. One of the things that's really interesting when Trump says they don't need American money, but they need American protection, the protection would be the men and women of our military who we would send over there, which is indeed American money, but I'll digress from that. Paola, I want to bring you in here because the conversation about the oil is driving me crazy, and I think it's driving you crazy too. We didn't talk about this, but I feel like we're on the same wavelength because this is not our oil. This oil doesn't belong to the oil companies. This oil belongs to the people of Venezuela, belongs to the Venezuelan government, whether we like their government or not. And the way that Donald Trump is operating, right, is this imperialistic kind of Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin way, which is everything that's surrounding me. If it's not operating the way I want to, I can go in and take whatever I want. This oil is not ours.
Look,
It's driving me nuts.
Of course, like a week ago, we were all kind of wondering if this was about democracy or morality, and at least Donald Trump told us very clearly, right? This is what Trumpism has always been about, which is really about taking back what they believe belongs to them. And Trump has said it. You know, he wants to take back the Western Hemisphere. Now, I think the irony in all of this, as we're looking at what Trump is doing in Venezuela, is actually that it starts to resemble what Nicolás Maduro was doing in Venezuela with the oil, right? That suddenly what you're seeing is this kind of state-run oil machine where there is no free market, where the government controls everything, and where Donald Trump or Nicolás Maduro, the autocrat, gets to decide what happens. So at the end of the day, the through line here is that the strong man does what the strong man wants to do. And of course, as you guys are talking about, these oil companies are kind of looking at this and having these same existential questions, right? Which is not only just about the security. It's not only just about whether or not this is a good deal for them. It's also about whether or not you want to be part of this story, a story that we have to remind ourselves is not normal. You know, to your point, there's nothing normal about the United States going in, right, ousting Nicolás Maduro and suddenly controlling everything. But like we've discussed many times at this point, this is part of the United States history. You know, this is one of many interventions that the United States has had in the Latin American continent, and we know how the story ends, right? Which is, at the end of the day, this simply perpetuates these cycles of violence that then lead to what Stephen Miller hates the most: mass migration, instability. But at the end of the day, the root cause is the United States.
There are so many directions to go here, and we haven't even talked about Maria Corina Machado, but I do want to make sure that we ask Vivian, the reporter who originally broke the story that Trump had imperial designs on Greenland back in his first administration, and stay with this imperialism thread. Let's play quickly what Trump said yesterday about his threats to take Greenland the hard way.
We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not. Because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way.
I mean,
It's absolutely.
Your response. What are you hearing?
Literally.
Jackie, I think over the course of, since that story, we broke that story in 2019, I think a lot of people assumed that it was tongue-in-cheek to a certain degree. But in the past week, I have gotten calls from countless European officials at the highest levels asking me if they should be worried. And one of the big reasons is because of Venezuela. The United States just went into a sovereign nation and extradited by force a sitting president. Now, no one is shedding a tear for Nicolás Maduro, but they're saying if he could do that there, should the Danes be worried? I mean, I don't think we were there, but that's literally what Europeans are worried about at this point. Would he take Greenland by force if he chooses to? And at this point, there is a real concern that the U.S., that he is really hell-bent on creating this, what he calls the Donroe Doctrine, this corollary in the Western Hemisphere where he wants to dominate the Western Hemisphere as a power competition with Russia and China. And he just said so himself. It's a real ambition, and the administration is actually now designing plans to see how they could go about doing this.
And when they watch the president say, we'll take it the easy way or the hard way, why wouldn't they be nervous?
Absolutely. We've already seen him use the U.S. military in Venezuela in very unconventional ways. He could do it anywhere else.